can't see a thing. Okay, anyway, I was trying to make it bigger for whatever reason. Hey, I decided I'm going to read the Bhagavad Gita, not the whole book in one sitting, but I'm going to read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to do two today because chapter one, not much happens. Um, chapter one's like the introduction, and then chapter two, Krishna starts teaching. And I think the Bhagavad Gita, as the Gita, really begins around chapter two, verse 10. When Krishna smiles and starts talking. But before that is sort of the introduction. And so if you don't know anything about the Bhagavad Gita, the very sort of super simple, short context, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, and is there's basically a war that involves a family. There was this king, say by the name of Pandu, and he was fairly young when he was king, and he had a blind brother with a very long name. That looks crazy when you try to read it, but it's Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra and Pandu. Pandu's the king. Dhritarashtra's the brother who's blind, and because he was blind, he was never really considered to be a viable option for being king. But then Pandu decided he was going to go like on a spiritual journey. He shared his rule with his brother Dhritarashtra, and while he was off on a spiritual journey, he died. So he died young, and Dhritarashtra just sort of stayed king, even though the throne should have went to Pandu's oldest son. But he was very young at the time, so Dhritarashtra just sort of, I guess we would say, just sort of ruled as the regent. But then he decided he liked being king, and then he decided that his son should be king, so he kept the throne for himself and for his sons, and they're the side of the army that's called the Kurus. But the sons of Pandu are also Kurus. It's all one big family in the Kurus. And so Pandu's sons end up having their own separate adventures. This is all in the story called the Mahabharata, or the Mahabharata. And Pandu's sons get an army and are fighting Dhritarashtra's sons for the throne. And Arjuna is one of the sons of Pandu, one of the five sons, I believe it's five sons of Pandu, and he's on the one side of the army. And Dhritarashtra's sons' army is huge, and the Pandavas are the sons of Pandu. They have a smaller army, but Krishna is on their side, and Krishna isn't revealed to everyone as a god. He's just sort of like this, he's just a prince, and say just a prince, but he's a prince, and he takes the humble position of being the chariot driver for Arjuna. Arjuna went to ask for help. Krishna said he would not fight in the battle, but he would be there in the battle. And he took the position of a chariot driver, which is sort of like a downgrade for a prince. So it's a humble move. Those of us who have gods who like to be humble will get this, just as Jesus washed feet and did things that were associated with the lower classes and were acts of humility. Krishna, who's this sort of prince with this big army, takes the position of a chariot driver. But it allows him to be with Arjuna, and it also allows him to give him advice and counsel in the process, and still not be active in the fighting and the killing himself. So this is where we are. We have the two armies lined up, and it begins as and the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the larger epic, the Mahabharata. It's one of the pieces of it. So this is a part of a larger work. So this first chapter, I always say, is like it's an introduction, but it's also sort of like it's walking out of the Mahabharata and walking into this Bhagavad Gita. And so I always think of it like when you walk into a church. Here's all that was to say this: when you walk into a church, 95% of churches you ever walk into has, when you first walk in, there's this little lobby section, and then you walk into the sanctuary. And that's not that's actually, there's a theological reason for that. In the church I grew up, they call that lobby section the narthex, right? And what that is it's a threshold between the sanctuary and the world. And so you have inside the church is the sanctuary, where it's supposed to be holy and mystical and all those things that we think of with sanctuary. And outside the church we have the world, which is, as we know, is the world. And so when we first walk in, we don't just walk straight into the sanctuary. We walk into this part where it's not the sanctuary and not the world, or it is the sanctuary and the world. It's where they meet. It's like the threshold between the world and the sanctuary. And so all that to say was to say this first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is like the narthex of a church. It is not the Mahabharata, but it is. It's you're walking out of this larger epic into this brief little sanctuary epic. And so we have this first chapter that takes us out of the Mahabharata, and chapter 2 takes us into the Bhagavad Gita. But this first chapter is that narthex area where we're not in either, or we're in both at the same time. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay? So here we go. Oh, and the first chapter has a lot of names from all these heroes. So if you want to watch me stutter and stumble, get ready, because it's going to happen. All right? So the first chapter is, I'm reading from Iswaran's translation. I think it's accessible for those who aren't familiar with the Bhagavad Gita. It's a very accessible translation. Plus, it just has a translation. It does the problem with getting translations or reading the Bhagavad Gita is 95% of the ones you pick up will have, or they're mostly commentary. So you read a verse, then you have those pages of commentary. You read a verse and have pages of commentary. This is just the Gita. So it's not all the commentary. I may have some comments along the way, but I'm not even planning on offering any commentary. You just heard as much commentary as you're going to hear, except for this one thing. I do have this one thing which I hit me today when I was looking at it. So the first chapter, the way Iswaran likes to interpret things, he calls the first chapter the war within, because he sees this war between the Pandavas and the Kurus as being sort of the war between that goes on within each of us. So, Dhritarashtra, he says, "O Sanjaya, tell me what happened at Kurukshetra, the field of Dharma, where my family and the Pandavas gathered to fight." And Sanjaya says, "Having surveyed the forces of the Pandavas arrayed for battle, Prince Duryodhana approached his teacher Drona and spoke, 'O my teacher, look at this mighty army of the Pandavas assembled by your own gifted disciple, the son of Drupada. There are heroic warriors and great archers that are equals of Bhima and Arjuna, Yoyudana, Virata, and the mighty Drupada, Drishtaketu, Chekitana, and the valiant king, Chekitana, the valiant king of Kashi, Purujit, Kuntibroja, and the great leader of Shaibya, and the powerful Udamayanu, the valiant Utamaujas, and the son of Subhadra, in addition to the sons of Draupadi. All these command mighty chariots." So basically, I'm sorry, there's a lot of names. He just says, hey, look at this great army we have. We have an all-star team. "O best of Brahmins, listen to the names of those who are distinguished among our own forces. Bhishma, Karna, and the victorious Kripa, Ashvathama, Vikarna, and the son of Samadatta. There are many others too, heroes giving up their lives for my sake, all proficient in war and armed with a variety of weapons. Our army is unlimited and commanded by Bhishma. Theirs is small and commanded by Bhima. Let everyone take his proper place and stand firm, supporting Bhishma." Then the powerful Bhishma, the grandsire, oldest of all Kurus, in order to cheer Duryodhana, roared like a lion and blew his conch horn. And After Bhishma, a tremendous noise arose of conchs and cow horns and pounding on drums. So again, just very briefly, uh, the oldest son of the Kurus, who is now acting, who's the prince, says, "Look at this great all-star team army we have, and it's huge. Their army is small. Our general, commanding general, is the best in the world. Theirs not so much. And look, they're all willing to lay down their lives for me." And then they all cheer, "Hoo, hoo!" Right? And they're blowing their horns and banging their drums, and they're all getting themselves fired up for war. All right, picking up, Shri Krishna and Arjuna were standing in the mighty chariot, yoked with white horses, blew their divine conchs. Shri Krishna blew the conch named Panchajanya. Panchajanyaya. Arjuna blew that called Devadatta. Oh, I know that word, Devadatta. Deva is like gods. Datta, so it's like gift of God, right? Arjuna blew that called Devadatta. The mighty Bhima blew a huge conch, Panja. Yudhishthira, the king, the son of Kunti, blew the conch Anantavijaya. Nukula and Sahadeva blew their conchs as well. Then the king of Kashi, the leading bowman, the great warrior Shikandi, Drishtadhyuma, Virata, the invincible Satyaki, Drupada, all the sons of Draupadi, and the strong-armed son of Subhadra joined in, and the noise tore through the heart of Duryodhana's army. Indeed, the sound was tumultuous, echoing throughout heaven and earth. Then, Drashtis, now my tongue's all tied up from all those other names. Then, O Dhritarashtra, Lord of the earth, having seen your son's forces set in their places and fighting about to begin, Arjuna spoke these words to Sri Krishna. Arjuna speaks. "O Krishna, drive my chariot between the two armies. I want to see those who desire to fight with me. With whom will this battle be fought? I want to see those assembled to fight for Duryodhana, those who seek to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra by engaging in war." Sanjaya continues. Sanjaya is the overall storyteller. Sanjaya continues, "This Arjuna spoke, and Sri Krishna, driving his splendid chariot between the two armies, facing Bhishma and Drona and all the kings of the earth, said, 'Arjuna, behold all the Kurus gathered together.' And Arjuna, standing between the two armies, saw fathers and grandfathers, teachers, uncles and brothers, sons and grandsons, in-laws and friends. Seeing his kinsmen established in opposition, Arjuna was overcome by sorrow. Despairing, he spoke these words." So, just very briefly again, I'm sorry for the little commentary right here, is Arjuna goes in between both armies and sees that it's one big family. He has family and friends and teachers and mentors on his side, but he has them on the other side as well. And so Arjuna was overcome by sorrow. Despairing, he spoke these words. Arjuna speaks. "O Krishna, I see my own relations here anxious to fight, and my limbs grow weak. My mouth is dry, my body shakes, and my hair is standing on end. My skin burns, and the bow Gandiva has slipped from my hand. I am unable to stand. My mind seems to be whirling. These signs bode evil for us. I do not see that any good can come from killing our relations in battle. O Krishna, I have no desire for victory, or for a kingdom, or for pleasures. Of what use is the kingdom or pleasures or even life, if those for whose sake we desire these things, teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, uncles, in-laws, grandsons, and others with family ties, are engaging in this battle, renouncing their wealth and their lives? Even if they were to kill me, I would not want to kill them. not even to become the ruler of 3 worlds. How much less for this earth alone? O Krishna, what satisfaction could we find in killing Dhritarashtra's sons? We would become sinners by slaying these men, even though they are evil. The sons of Dhritarashtra are related to us, therefore we should not kill them. How can we gain happiness by killing members of our own family? Though they are overpowered by greed and see no evil in destroying families or injuring friends, we see these evils. Why shouldn't we turn away from this sin? When a family declines, ancient traditions are destroyed, and with them are lost the spiritual foundations for life, and the family loses its sense of unity. Where there is no sense of unity, the women of the family become corrupt, and with this corruption, society is plunged into chaos. Social chaos is hell for the family and for those who have destroyed the family as well. It disrupts the process of spiritual evolution begun by our ancestors. The timeless spiritual foundation of family and society would be destroyed by these terrible deeds, which violate the unity of life. It is said that those whose family dharma has been destroyed dwell in hell. This is a great sin. We are prepared to kill our own relations out of greed for the pleasure of a kingdom. Better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to attack me in battle and kill me, unarmed and unresisting. Sanjaya speaks. Overwhelmed by sorrow, Arjuna spoke these words, and casting away his bow and his arrows, he sat down in his chariot in the middle of the battlefield. And that's the cliffhanger for chapter 1. So chapter 2, which is entitled in Iswaran's translation, Self-Realization. And chapter 2 sort of serves as a summary for the whole Gita, which the most famous part beginning around verse 55 to 70 something, I would say 72 or 74, is the part that sort of really is the whole Gita, or at least the way we're supposed to live in a nutshell, right? So, Sanjaya. These are the words that Sri Krishna spoke to the despairing Arjuna, whose eyes were burning with tears of pity and confusion. Krishna speaks. This despair and weakness in a time of crisis are mean and unworthy of you, Arjuna. How have you fallen into a state so far from the path of liberation? It does not become you to yield to this weakness. Arise with a brave heart and destroy the enemy. Arjuna. How can I ever bring myself to fight against Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of reverence? How can I, Krishna? Surely it would be better to spend my life begging than kill these great and worthy souls. If I killed them, every pleasure I found would be tainted. I do not even know which would be better, for us to conquer them or for them to conquer us. The sons of Dhritarashtra have confronted us, but why would we care to live if we killed them? My will is paralyzed, and I am utterly confused. Tell me which is the better path for me. Let me be your disciple. I have fallen at your feet. Give me instruction. What can overcome a sorrow that saps all my vitality? Even power over men and gods or the wealth of an empire seem empty. Sanjaya. This is how Arjuna, the great warrior, spoke to Sri Krishna. With the words, "O Krishna, I will not fight." He fell silent, and they stood between the two armies. Sri Krishna smiled and replied to Arjuna, who had sunk into despair. Krishna. You speak sincerely, but your sorrow has no cause. The wise grieve neither for the living nor for the dead. There has never been a time when you and I and the kings gathered here have not existed, nor will there be a time when we will cease to exist. As the same person inhabits the body through childhood, youth, and old age, so too at the time of death he attains another body. The wise are not deluded by these changes. When the senses contact sense objects, a person experiences cold or heat, pain or pleasure. These experiences are fleeting. They come and go. Bear them patiently, Arjuna. Those who are unaffected by these changes, who are the same in pleasure and pain, are truly wise and fit for immortality. Assert your strength and realize this. The impermanent has no reality. The impermanent has no reality. Reality lies in the eternal. Those who have seen the boundary between these two have attained the end of all knowledge. Realize that which pervades the universe and is indestructible. No power can affect this unchanging and perishable reality. The body is mortal, but that which dwells in the body is immortal and immeasurable. Therefore, Arjuna, fight this battle. One believes he is the slayer, another believes he is the slain. Both are ignorant. There is neither slayer nor slain. You were never born. You will never die. You have never changed. You can never change. Unborn, eternal, immutable, immemorial, you do not die when the body dies. Realizing that which is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and unchanging, how can you slay or cause another to slay? As one abandons worn-out clothes and acquires new ones, so when the body is worn out, a new one is acquired by the self who lives within, the capital S self who lives within. The self cannot be the self cannot be pierced by weapons or burned by fire. Water cannot wet it, nor can the wind dry it. The self cannot be pierced or burned, made wet or dry. It is everlasting and infinite, standing in the motionless foundation of eternity. The self is unmanifested beyond all thought, beyond all change. Knowing this, you should not grieve. O mighty Arjuna, even if you believe the self to be subject to birth and death, you should not grieve. Death is inevitable for the living. Birth is inevitable for the dead. Since these are unavoidable, you should not sorrow. Every creature is unmanifested at first and then attains manifestation. When its end has come, it once again becomes unmanifested. What is there to lament in this? The glory of the self is beheld by a few, and a few describe it. A few listen, but many without understanding. The self of all beings living within the body is eternal and cannot be harmed. Therefore do not grieve. Considering your dharma, you should not vacillate. For a warrior, nothing is higher than a war against evil. The warrior confronted with such a war should be pleased, Arjuna, for it comes as an open gate to heaven. But if you do not participate in this battle against evil, you will incur sin, violating your dharma and your honor. The story of your dishonor will be repeated endlessly, and for a man of honor, dishonor is worse than death. These brave warriors will think you have withdrawn from battle out of fear, and those who formerly esteemed you will treat you with disrespect. Your enemies will ridicule your strength and say things that should never be said. What could be more painful than this? Death means the attainment of heaven. Victory means the enjoyment of the earth. Therefore, rise up, Arjuna, resolve to fight. Having made yourself alike in pain and pleasure, profit and loss, victory and defeat, engage in this great battle, and you will be free from sin. You have heard the intellectual explanation of Sankhya, Arjuna. Now listen to the principles of yoga. By practicing these, you can break through the bonds of karma. On this path, effort never goes to waste, and there is no failure. Even a little effort towards spiritual awareness will protect you from the greatest fear. Those who follow this path, resolving deep within themselves to seek me alone, attain singleness of purpose. For those who lack resolution, the decisions of life are many-branched and endless. There are ignorant people who speak flowery. There are ignorant people who speak flowery. I can't say it now. There are ignorant people who speak flowery words and take delight in the letter of the law, saying that there is nothing else. Their hearts are full of selfish desires, Arjuna. Their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment, and the aim of all their activities is pleasure and power. The fruit of their actions is continual rebirth. Those whose minds are swept away by the pursuit of pleasure and power are incapable of following the supreme goal and will not attain samadhi. The scriptures describe the three gunas, but you should be free from the actions of all the gunas, establish an eternal truth, self-controlled, without any sense of duality or the desire to acquire and hoard. Just as a reservoir is of little use when the whole country is flooded, scriptures are of little use to the illumined man or woman who see the Lord everywhere. You have the right to work, but never to the fruit of work. You should never engage in action for the sake of reward, nor should you long for inaction. Perform work in this world, Arjuna, as a man established within himself, without selfish attachments, and alike in success and defeat, for yoga is perfect evenness of mind. Seek refuge in the attitude of detachment, and you will amass the wealth of spiritual awareness. Those who are motivated only by desire for the fruits of action are miserable. I'm going to read that again because it's important. Those who are motivated only by desire for the fruits of action are miserable, for they are constantly anxious about the results of what they do. When consciousness is unified, however, all vain anxiety is left behind. There is no cause for worry, whether things go well or ill. Therefore, devote yourself to the disciplines of yoga, for yoga is skill in action. Yoga is perfect evenness of mind. Yoga is skill in action. The wise unify their consciousness and abandon attachment to the fruits of action, which bind a person to continual rebirth. The wise unify their consciousness and abandon attachment to the fruits of action, which binds a person to continual rebirth. Thus they attain a state beyond all evil. When your mind has overcome the confusion of duality, you will attain the state of holy indifference to things you hear and things you have heard. When you are unmoved by the confusion of ideas and your mind is completely united in deep samadhi, you will attain the state of perfect yoga. And samadhi, by the way, is, let's just call it intense concentration and focus. So you become sort of so one single-minded or one-pointed of mind that it becomes your whole focus, and sort of nothing else exists. And then that's when you're in the state of perfect yoga and achieve the state of immortality, says Krishna. Sorry, there was commentary after all. Arjuna, tell me of those who live established in wisdom, ever aware of the self. And the self here is capital S self, so it's the soul. Maybe I'll just start reading as the soul to avoid confusion. But ever aware of the soul, O Krishna. How do they talk? How do they sit? How do they move about? I'm going to read that again just because I muddled it with my own little commentary there. Tell me of those who live established in wisdom, ever aware of the soul, O Krishna. How do they talk? How do they sit? How do they move about? Krishna. They live in wisdom, who see themselves in all and all in them, who have renounced every selfish desire and sense-craving tormenting the heart. Neither agitated by grief nor hankering after pleasure, they live free from lust and fear and anger. Established in meditation, they are truly wise. Fettered no more by selfish attachments, they are neither elated by good fortune nor depressed by bad. Such are the seers. Even as a tortoise draws in its limbs, the wise can draw in their senses at will. Aspirants abstain from sense pleasures, but they still crave for them. These cravings all disappear when they see the highest goal. Even those who tread the path, the stormy senses can sweep off. Even those who tread the path, the stormy senses can sweep off the mind. They live in wisdom who subdue their senses and keep their minds ever absorbed in me. When you keep thinking about sense objects, attachment comes. Attachment breeds desire, the lust of possession that burns to anger. Anger clouds the judgment. You can no longer learn from past mistakes. Losses the power to choose between what is wise and what is unwise, and your life is utter waste. But when you move amidst in the world of sense, but when you move amidst the world of sense, free from attachment and aversion alike, there comes the peace in which all sorrows end, and you live in the wisdom of the soul. The disunited mind is far from wise. The disunited mind is far from wise. How can it meditate? How can it be at peace? When you know no peace, how can you know joy? When you let your mind follow the call of the senses, they carry away your better judgment as storms drive a boat off its charted course on the sea. Use all your power to free the senses from attachment and aversion alike, and live in the full wisdom of the soul. Such a sage awakes to the light in the night of all creatures. That which the world calls day is the night of ignorance to the wise. As rivers flow into the ocean, but cannot make the vast oceans overflow, so flow the streams of the sense world into the sea of peace that is the sage. As rivers flow into the ocean, but cannot make the vast ocean overflow, so flow the streams of the sense world into the sea of peace that is in the sage. But this is not so with the desirer of desires. They are forever free who renounce all selfish desires and break away from the ego cage of I, me, mine, to be united with the Lord. And I'm going to read that sentence again because it's important. They are forever free who renounce all selfish desires and break away from the ego cage of I, me, mine, to be united in the Lord. This is the supreme state. Attain to this and pass from death to immortality. So the super summation of the summation is, if you want to be free, get rid of I, me, mine. This is the supreme state. Attain to this and pass from death to immortality. And that's chapter 2. I think traditionally entitled Karma Yoga. Karma being action, not being what we think it is trying to get good karma and avoid bad karma. It's just action. Every action has a consequence, and every consequence determines future action, and so on, and it just starts running out of control. By the way, your goal, well, first of all, the idea of good karma and bad karma is just perception. It's not a real thing. There's just karma. There's just action, and they form habit patterns, which creates new actions. But if you think the goal is to generate good karma, you're still trapped in karma. So the goal isn't to get good karma and avoid bad karma. The goal is to be free from all karma. And so even trying to generate good karma so that you have good things, that whole sort of thing we do in our culture, which is do good things happen, do bad things happen, what goes around comes around, however we want to phrase the karma thing, you're still on the karma train. And as long as you're riding on the karma train, you're subject to the process of birth, aging, sickness, death, and rebirth. So the goal is not to, I guess you're more comfortable the better your karma is, so do good things and get better karma, right? But if your goal is to get better karma, you're still trapped in desire, you're still trapped in karma, you're still trapped on the process of samsara, which I like to call the karma train. And you're just stuck on it. So the way to get off the karma train and not to be subject to the process of birth, old age, or aging, sickness, and death and rebirth is to be free from karma. Is to stop acting out of your desires, for your desires, but giving up, as Krishna says, giving up the fruit of your actions. You act, but you don't act to get the goal. You just act because it's your duty to act. And that frees you from the consequence of the action. Doesn't mean that you're free from, say, the causal universe of cause and effect, but the sort of that's it doesn't write itself. If I could just use the terms we use in the West, it isn't going to sort of anchor your soul, and it's going to allow your soul to still operate with freedom, even though you're still acting. That's sort of what Krishna's saying. Hopefully that made sense. Thank you, those of you who are watching this or who have watched this, and peace. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.